Hi, it's the Lipstick Gal. Thanks so much for watching today. I'm playing with new Viseart Petits Fours. Viseart released 3 new Petits Fours for holiday, and these palettes have been sitting untouched on my countertop for almost 2 weeks. I've been so busy with other videos I've been working on. They've just been staring at me, and I was like, oh, I need to sit down and play with these guys. Now, you may not know this, but I absolutely love Viseart Petits Fours. I have all of them. I know. But these really are some of my favorites. First of all, I love a small eyeshadow palette. 4 shadows, perfect. They're affordable, they're compact, they're really pretty, and like every single one of these, like the packaging, you know exactly what you're getting for based on the exterior color. I love that about these, and the formula of Viseart shadows is absolutely spectacular. Now, these 3 new palettes here, I'm really curious to see if we have any similar shades in the previous 12 Petits Fours, but the only way we're going to find out is by jumping into them. I'm going to start with this one here. This is the Amelie. This palette has 2 mattes and 2 metallics, and this is perfect for somebody who loves warm neutrals. I really love the metallic formula of Viseart shadows, and the mattes are really, really gorgeous. I wish that one of these shades was either lighter or a little bit darker. They seem very similar, but let's see what they look like on the eye. One thing I'll tell you is I like that there's no mirror in here. The mirror would be too small really to be useful to me. So I like that I don't have to worry about that. I can just leave it here on the table and go from there. So I'm going to start with the lightest of these 2 browns in my crease. This is a very decidedly warm shade. I feel like there's a lot of shades that are similar to this amongst the Viseart collection. These shadows blend with almost no effort whatsoever, and I really, really like that about them. I'm going to pick up the darker brown and kind of place it right here on the outside. These look very similar in tone to me. I wish this one was either just a little bit darker or the other one was just a little bit lighter. I don't have an exhaustive Viseart collection, but I feel like I have a fairly large collection. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that lightest brown and run it on the lower lash line. I love these metallics. These just make my heart happy. This is the darker of the 2. It's very copper leaning. I'm just going to pat it over a portion of my eyelid, and then the lighter of the 2 I'm going to put on the inner third of the lid and more towards the inner corner. But look at that shine. That's just gorgeous. I did pick up a little bit too much on my finger because I have a few little chunks below, but I feel like that's pretty easy to take care of with just a little swipe. Oop. Now I've got a little extra sparkle. The lighter of these 2 shades is definitely more of a little bit darker of a champagne shade, but it definitely has that kind of light quality to it. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that darker copper shade and just kind of hit the center of the lower eye. I'm going to throw on some liner and mascara, and I'll be right back. I love the way this look turned out. This is a sort of palette I could see myself reaching for when I need a fast but easy, reliable look. It is a really easy to use color story, but it really reminded me of another Petits Fours from Viseart in Chocolat. Look how similar these are. This is the new Amelie, and this is the Chocolat. I decided I wanted to see how close these were. I did a lot of swatches. These 4 right here are the new Amelie quad. And I feel like this shade and this shade are very similar. This is one of the mattes from the Chocolat quad. I feel like this metallic is a little bit lighter. They're pretty close. I feel like these top 2 shades are really close. This metallic here, this kind of bronzy metallic, this one's a little bit more orange leaning in the Chocolat quad, and the other matte is a darker brown. I feel like this matte and this matte are really, really similar. The shades across the bottom here are from the Solstice palette, but if you look at them, these 2 mattes from the Solstice palette are very similar to this. We have a similar-ish shade here. This one is definitely a little bit more vanilla. This one is definitely a little bit more golden. I don't think that this more bronzy metallic is as pigmented as this, but there is a deeper brown. So if you're wanting to know, this right here is the Solstice palette, and it is very similar to this Petit Four. And I feel like if you like this sort of an eye look, I don't know that you would need this new Amelie palette if you already have the Chocolat or if you already have the Solstice palette. If you don't and you like the way this look turned out, I really love these little teeny tiny quads. But these were the shades out of ones that I already had that really look similar to these new 4 shades right here. I did also pull out the Praline and the Peche, and I feel like the Peche is definitely peachier and this one is definitely cooler. Whereas I think the only shade that might be even slightly similar would be this kind of goldy metallic here. And it's still a little bit more yellow and this is a little bit more vanilla. I feel like this is a different leaning sort of easy quad, a neutral quad, but if you love a warm neutrals and you don't have any of these yet, this is a great little option. This is the next palette I want to jump into, and I am super excited about this shade here because it's a duochrome. All right, so there is one matte in here and everything else is either metallic or duochrome. So I'm going to start with this deep plummy shade here. This is a really pretty color. Oh, I like this. This is beautiful. I'm going to take a little bit of that same shade right on the lower lash line, just lightly. This is a beautiful shade. It had some sparkle in it. It looks like a matte with a little bit of sparkle, and I'm trying to find a way that the sparkle is going to show. But I feel like I picked up too much of it because I have a little bit of fallout. Let's see if I can get rid of that. Maybe this would be easier if I was applying it with a brush. So although there is some sparkle, this is definitely reading very matte. I feel like the sparkle isn't as visible as I would want it to be. This is the shade that I've been using right now, but do you see how there's sparkle in there? I kind of feel like I'm losing the sparkle as I'm placing it on the lid, and it's coming across as mostly matte. I think I got a little bit more sparkle if I was using my finger, but then I had a lot of fallout. So I'm trying to figure this one out. I'm thinking about other brands that do mattes with sparkles in them. I know Too Faced does. I know Tati Beauty did. I know that ColourPop does. And Viseart does that occasionally, and it's not always my favorite, but I love this shade. I feel like at this point I need to go in and intensify the outer corner just a little bit more. Got a little overzealous. But see how easily they blend? Beautiful. Look at that. Oh, so beautiful. Okay, I'm obviously picking up too much. I've been struggling a little bit with this look. This dark charcoal shade here gave me some fallout and I had to repair some of my under eye situation. And then as I was putting it on the eye and blending it, it kind of buffed out into like a really soft smoky gray, and I wanted some of this really heavy metallic. This is my Rephr 21. I picked some of that metallic up, sprayed it with a little bit of setting spray, and then laid it down. And I am getting much more of a metallic look, but I wanted to cover everything with this. Look at this. This is a duochrome shade. It can read a little bit purple or it can read a little bit blue. And I'm worried that I have too much. I'm gonna pop some on the back of my hand here. And then I'm just going to, oh, wow. Oh, I love that. It's kind of like a purpley blue all over. I'm also just going to drag some of this on the lower lash line. I have a ton of fallout. I have been not as careful as I normally am. And I definitely am seeing the remnants of my exuberance all over my face. But I really like the way that this duochrome really just kind of transforms everything. All right, I'm gonna have to clean this up and I'm gonna throw on some liner and mascara. So give me just a minute and I'll be right back. I am so in love with the duochrome that I had going on in my inner corner and then tapped all over the lid. Now, I did go a little too far and I had a lot of fallout. Part of that was because I was picking up too much on my finger. Part of that is also, I feel, part of the formulation. It's a little bit lighter. So I would recommend, if you were to use this palette, that you would do your eyes first. I would have been better served to do my eyes first and then put the rest of my face on, but oh, she's beautiful. Oh, I really like this. It's that duochrome that really has me. Let's take a look at some swatches. Here are the swatches. These four right here are the Violetta. So this is that matte with a little bit of sparkle. This is the burgundy matte. This is the metallic charcoal shade and the duochrome. And this duochrome, I feel like you can see the blue that it reflects pretty well here on the eye, but here on the hand, it has a really pretty kind of purpley blue with a little bit of gray to it. It's really striking, but the formula is so dusty. Like I pick it up and it's pretty, but I feel like I end up with sparkle everywhere. And I can see as I'm rubbing it on my hand over the top of the swatch, there is a lot of it that just kind of, you know, collects around the edges. It's beautiful, it's stunning, but this is one of those shades that I would use a primer for or a glitter glue or something to kind of help keep it in place. But I love the kind of mercurial, shifty way that it changed the whole look by just kind of swiping it on over the top. So these are the four shades here. I felt like this one was similar to this, and this is the duochrome in the Midsummer palette. This is the Midsummer palette. Here is the duochrome, and this is the shade I was swatching. I feel like these two are similar, but the rest of the palette really isn't. This is more mauve-y, and we get more burgundy and charcoal depth that we don't get in this palette. I was thinking, okay, what has charcoal in it? So I pulled out my Paris Edit, and you have kind of like a burgundy here and a charcoal, and that's what these two shades are here, but they're not exactly the same. Everything across the bottom is from the Cashmere palette. I felt like we had similar shades in here, but not identical. So that's kind of what's going on here. But I really feel like from what I already have in my collection, this is unique. I don't feel like any of the other Petits Fours that they have released previously actually are like this one at all. And I really feel like the only thing that kind of has a similar idea would be a mixture of like the Midsummer and the Paris Edit. You could certainly kind of get a similar look. That's what these four here are, but it's not identical. This is very different. It does go a little bit deeper. And if you like a deeper, cooler eye, I really think that you would like the Violetta. The last one to try on is this one. This is the Lilas Deux, or the Lilas Part 2. And I was so excited when I saw they released this, because probably one of my most used, and I can't decide between this and another, which is my favorite of all the Petits Fours, is the original Lilas. I love this with my whole heart. But look at this. I feel like we have some similarities here, but we have a slightly warmer shade, but I feel like two of these mattes and two of these metallics are really similar. I'm gonna grab this lightest matte shade here, and then I'm just gonna work it into the crease. I like that 2 out of these 3 new palettes are cool. I have been really loving cool toned eyeshadows, and these are beautiful. The other thing that is so great about these is that these are all magnetic palettes and that you can remove the shades in there. If you have a bunch of Petits Fours or palettes that are this entendu size, you can swap them around, mix them around, make your own like little perfect palette. That is probably one of my favorite things. I do that frequently. And I love the quality of these, but I especially love how easy it is just to create my own little color story. I'm picking up that darker matte, placing it right here. You know what? I'm gonna use a different brush. I have so many things on the table I couldn't find the brush I was looking for, so I'm just gonna use this. I'm going to take a mixture of both of those mattes and go right along the bottom lash line with this. One of my major criticisms of the original Lilas palette is that It's so light. Like the matte shades are so light. And I really feel like it didn't have enough depth overall for more than people with fair to light skin tones to wear half the shades in the palette. I feel like the metallics would work well in a wide range of skin tones because they were so shiny, almost like a liquid silver. But I really felt like the mattes would look ashy on richer skin tones, even medium skin tones. And I don't know, I just didn't think that it was a palette that could be used by everybody. So here they are giving us some deeper options. I do like that. But let's see what these metallics are like. I'm just gonna, ooh. Here are the two metallics. We've got definitely a warmer one and a cooler one. I'm gonna start with the cooler shade kind of tapped out here. This is very much giving me kind of like that platinum shade in the original Lilas palette. That's really pretty. And then I'm gonna take this warmer one and hit the inside of the lid and kind of tap it over where they meet. The other thing I'm going to do is take that metallic shade, that darker, almost platinum shade, and apparently get it on my face while I'm trying to blend it on my lower lash line. I'm just taking that mostly clean brush that I used earlier and just kind of softening the edges here a little bit. This is really pretty. It's not too dark. It is a little bit more intense than the original Lilas. And I'm sure you could get more pigment out of this, but I'm kind of going for a lighter wash today. I'm going to throw on some mascara and liner and I'll be right back. These four shades here are the new Lilas Deux. We have like a pinky, dusty, matte shade, a more platinum metallic. We have this deeper, almost plum shade, and this warm metallic here. So these shades here are the new Lilas Deux, and the original Lilas are these four shades here. We have a more silver metal. We have a shade that looks very similar to that pink matte that we have in the new Lilas, and I feel like this almost platinum shade here really does remind me of the one in the other palette. I wouldn't be surprised if these two shades are the same. And this really light matte gray shade here, although it works beautifully on me, that and the light pink were the reason I always felt like the original Lilas palette worked best on fair to light skin tones, because these two matte shades here were so light on me, and I wear the lightest to second lightest shade of every foundation and concealer I've tried. There are some brands that are starting to branch out with like 50 or 60 shades, but it's only those shades. If there's like 40 shades or less, I'm the lightest or the second lightest, or sometimes there isn't a shade light enough for me. That's why I always had a little beef with this. I felt like the metallics could have worked on a wide range of skin tones, but the mattes in here were kind of like only gonna work for fair to light skin tones. So this Lilas Deux right here is interesting. I do feel like these two platinum metallics are very similar, and how best to do this. And these two pinky shades here are similar. I don't know if they're identical. It'd be really interesting if they took, you know, two of the most popular shades in here, plopped them in here, and came up with a couple of different shades. I think the look is beautiful, but remember that this right here is as dark as we get, these two shades here in this new palette. But it's definitely a little bit more range than we had in the original Lilas. I think I'm going to be reaching for this a lot. This is beautiful. It has just a little bit more depth while still having the things that I loved about it, because it was this darker platinum shade in here that I loved so much. Let's just swatch those side by side for funsies. Oh yeah, look at that. And here are the pinks. I think these are the same shades. I mean, I don't know for sure. Maybe this one's a hair darker, but they really look like they're the same shades. I haven't, you know what? Where's my phone? The internet is there for a reason. Let's take a quick look. I was just looking on the Viseart website, and the descriptions of the shades in this palette are different names than the ones in here, even though they look so similar. So I don't think that they're exact dupes. They're probably very heavily influenced by that. The one thing I will tell you is I wish they had the names on the back. The sticker here will tell you that it's a Petit Four and then the name of the Petit Four. So this one here is the Lilas Deux. This one's the Lilas. I would like the shade names, but that's okay. The shade names do come on the unit carton, but I don't keep those. So once those are gone, I either have to look them up online or I just have to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me tell you, this one is beautiful. If you really liked this, just know that half the shades in here really are reminiscent of this. They're not identical. They don't share the same shade name on the Viseart website. But to me, I really feel like if you want to get this, what you're really going for is this deeper plum shade and this more warm metallic. I was thinking about other places you might find shades like that if you already happen to have kind of like a larger Viseart collection, but let's take a quick look. Out of all the other Viseart palettes that I have, I feel like the Paris Edit kind of gets us the closest. We do have kind of like a warm shade down here by my thumb. We do have some softer pink shades like the one by my pinky. And we do have some purple-ish leaning shades. It's not quite purple. It's a little bit more plum in tone. And there is this charcoal right here. They're not identical. But if you already have this palette and you're wondering, can I get a similar look? I'm sure you could get something very similar to this from this palette right here. Do I think this is worth it? Oh yes. I feel like this is the one, and where's the Amelie? These two palettes right here, the Amelie and the Lilas Deux, are going to be great for every day, kind of like a warmer every day, a cooler every day. I feel like on my fair skin, this is not so much of an everyday look, this Violetta. This is definitely more of a event. I'm going out to dinner, I'm going to a party, I'm doing something in the evening, or if I really wanted a really dramatic smoky eye during the day because I really was needing a smoky eye, you could certainly get it from here. I am super excited about this, but I did figure that this duochrome was a little bit dry and did have a lot of fallout. I feel like there is less fallout in these guys here. Not that there wasn't any, there was some, but I feel like it was easy to clean up if you do your face first. Or if you do things differently than I do and you do your eyes first and then your face, you really won't have problems with this. I'm really glad to have these, but I'm one of those people where when I fall in love, not just with a formula, but a format, this 4-pan, I love the ease of these because they narrow and they keep me focused. And I also, it's kind of sad to say, but I like having, you know, like all of my little Petit Fours together. I really wanted to have like all of them. And I think it's so funny because the first one I really fell in love with head over heels 2 years ago. Yeah, it was holiday 2020 was this praline one and the Lilas. Those two were the ones that I was like, oh, these are so good. And then a couple of years later, I picked up the rest, and every time they release new ones, I'm like jumping right on them. And I feel these new ones for holiday are really lovely. I do feel like, you know, 2 of these, the Lilas Deux and the Amelie, are going to be the ones that are going to be like everyday looks for me. This Violetta that has that duochrome shade, the dark gray and the burgundy, is definitely more of a evening or occasion, or if I'm really needing a smoky eye. But this is probably more of the occasion eyeshadow palette as opposed to the daily for me because of my fair skin tone. If you rock these shades regularly, but this is more my daily. So these are the ones that I'll be using for work. For when I gotta get out the door quick and I need something I know I can trust. This is one that I'll probably remember, ooh, I need a little smoke, I need a little depth. I'll go for this one, or the duochrome in here because, although it is a little flaky, I love me that duochrome. Let me know, do you have a Petit Four collection? Do you love the idea of smaller palettes? I love smaller palettes so much. And I really feel like this format of, you know, 4 shades in a little teeny tiny square component with a ribbon pull. Oh, I don't know if these could be designed any better. I love these so much. And the fact that you can also take a shade out, swap it around, build your own favorite palette, love. Let me know, did you pick up any of these new holiday Petits Fours? Do you have a favorite? I have all of them. I know there's 15 of them. Let me know what your favorite is if you have one. Or if there's one you've been curious and you want to know more about, ask me a question. I'm happy to answer that in the description box down below. Thank you so much for watching today. Have an incredible day, and I'll see you again soon.